Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. A very warm welcome to you all on this very special occasion. My name is Shanti van Dam and I am the director of the Erasmus Prize Foundation. And the foundation is delighted to present to you tonight our Erasmus Prize winner 2018, American writer and journalist Barbara Ehrenreich. Coming Tuesday, she will be receiving the Erasmus Prize from the hands of His Majesty the King in the palace in Amsterdam. Now, in the week running up to this festive event, we have organized several events with Barbara to highlight the different aspects of her work. Today, here in the Bali, we celebrate her work by talking about investigative journalism throughout the day. This morning we had a wonderful masterclass for journalism students who had an opportunity to ask Barbara questions about her craft and the particularities of immersion journalism, the form of journalism she has almost single-handedly revived and pioneered. Tonight she will have a conversation with Dutch journalist Joris Luyendijk, who, amongst other things, reported on people on the other side of the spectrum. So not the working poor, but the 1% in the banking sector. So they will have lots to talk about, and to guide them through the evening, we have prepared some beautiful film footage to take us through the different stages of Barbara's working life. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Timothy Snyder, the historian from Yale University, was here in the Bali just 2 weeks ago. And he called journalists the heroes of our time and pretty much the only people who can save us now. He also stated we need myth busters. We need myth busters now more than ever. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we give to you Mythbuster Extraordinaire, Barbara Ehrenreich.
Well, Barbara, first of all, congratulations on the prize.
Well, thank you.
It's a good prize. Yeah.
Yeah.
What mood are you in?
What mood am I in? Jubilant, can't you tell?
Excellent.
No, it's exciting, not just for the prize, not just because I'm going to get into a royal palace without storming it, because I think that's the way traditionally people on the left have gotten into royal palaces, but also because I have friends and family who have come from all over to be here and enjoy this with me. And if I really wanted to prolong things, I would introduce them all individually.
That's right.
But I'm not.
Yeah, but it's among them your son Ben, and others. There are many accolades, more than a dozen books. Nickel and Dime is one of the famous ones. Smile or Die is another one. You also hold a PhD in cellular immunology, and perhaps your biggest accolade was that you were on the Jon Stewart show.
Yes.
Yes, and he prepared really well. Let's have a look.
Yeah, that's what I'm most famous for.
That's it. Here goes. Yeah, I never think delusion is okay.
Oh, delusion, right. Okay.
Yeah, because this is heresy, isn't it? I mean, in a sort of happy face capitalist America.
Yeah, no, it's very inescapable in my country, but it has crept out to other parts of the world, especially, the other, quote, advanced rich countries in the world.
Positive thinking.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually quite big in China, with excited rallies of people, pumping themselves up to succeed and become billionaires.
In many ways, I think the Brexit campaign also built on the idea of positive thinking. If you just will sovereignty enough, we'll get it.
Huh.
So you'd be defeatist.
I didn't realize that.
If you pointed out all the obstacles and the impossibilities, they just go, oh, you're the defeatist. You're not positive enough.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Because actually, positive thinking made inroads into the UK about 8, 9 years ago by establishing outposts in different universities where it was called positive psychology. Had no basis, no scientific basis, and they would tell you that themselves. But why, why let that hang you up?
Yeah, yeah. After all, it's science. Because it's not a very happy reason why you got so interested in positive thinking.
No, I was being treated for breast cancer. Actually, at the point when I was diagnosed, and I was hanging out in this hospital waiting room for hours to get back the results of a mammogram, and I knew it was probably going to be bad. But in the waiting room, I found a local newspaper that had in the back, where there are, I don't know if you had the equivalent anymore, those sort of small ads, local things. And this was an ad for a breast cancer teddy bear, a pink breast cancer teddy bear, to give to anybody who had the illness. And then I just kind of flipped out. I mean, I somehow wasn't worried that much about the diagnosis and the treatment. Maybe I should have been more worried. But I was worried about the teddy bear. And the idea, I'm not really afraid of dying, but I am afraid of going out of my life with a pink teddy bear clutched under my arm. If you see that happening, shoot me and the bear right in.
Yeah. Yeah, we have euthanasia laws here in the Netherlands. We could probably include this. Take me out.
Teddy bears are very big in America. I don't know if you have teddy bears for different things. There's even a school shooting teddy bear.
Well, to protect you from schools, yeah.
Huh?
And so.
Yes, for the survivors of school shootings.
Yeah, I think
you look shocked.
We give them to the children of drug couriers. So some women come from the Caribbean and they smuggle drugs, and then they bring a child in order to fool customs. And when they fail, then the child, of course, is suddenly separated from the mother, and then they give the child a trauma bear. But that's not really positive. That's just.
Well, that's helpful.
Yeah. Here's a teddy bear. Yeah.
You can see he's been around bankers for a while.
Yeah. It infects the brain rapidly. But so this is how a book comes to you, essentially, because ultimately that experience translates in the end in Smile or Die. How positive thinking fooled America and the world.
How it comes to me? Not sure how. I mean, I got very motivated when I began to realize what positive thinking was doing to my culture, how it was inescapable. Not only, I mentioned in the medical system, you can encounter it, but also in business. I mean,
example.
It certainly before the financial meltdown in 08 and 09, it was ubiquitous in any kind of business for workers to get pumped up with little chants and affirmations. We can do this, even if it was clearly impossible and against the laws of mathematics and nature. Like to sell, get poor people to buy in on mortgages that they could never afford in a few months. But you could do that if you thought positively.
Yeah, and if you
was that your impression in London at all?
I think they're usually stuck in such a small niche and so overworked that they don't even stop to think. And so they're holding this tiny bit of the elephant, and they concentrate on that tiny bit. But I think their PR department and the suits, the client-facing, as they call them, they go straight for all that sort of stuff. It's called aspirational in Britain. Mm-hmm. We call it streberig in Dutch. Tell me, so this thing about positive thinking, does it have to do something with an inability to deal with vulnerability?
To deal with what?
Vulnerability.
Well, or to deal with the idea that you could lose, that things could go very wrong.
Bad things happen to good people.
Bad things happen to everybody, yeah.
That's very un-American.
Right, we don't acknowledge that.
Yeah, yeah. And so why do you acknowledge it?
I think that one of the things you have to be able to do as a journalist or writer is to not to think the same way that everybody else is thinking. This can make you unpopular, make you seem insane to a lot of people, but you have to get completely out of the common everyday assumptions.
Yeah.
Say, whoa, what's happening here?
Radical independence. Radical independence.
Yeah, okay.
And was this with you from the start? As a 4-year-old
Yes.
example?
I don't know. No, but I think it started very early.
Give us an anecdote.
Well, I mean, it certainly, my parents had something to do with it. They said, question everything, unless you question something that was too sensitive to them. But they said, always ask why.
And so you said, why? Why should I always ask why?
Yeah. Didn't even think of that, no. But.
You were 4, yeah.
So it was certainly their influence
Yeah.
was part of it.
But it also consigns you to isolation, because by definition the group is safe, and by definition you don't want to be part of the group.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's a tension in human societies going back to prehistory. We need the comfort and the protection of the group, but the group is going to mislead itself if it just, continues in its own little assumptions and expels those people who question them. So I think it's a constant tension.
Yeah.
We need the love and the support of each other, and we need to be able to stand back and say, this is bullshit.
Yeah. And so you're the dispenser of tough love. You're the dispenser of tough love.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. We found some of our Barbara Kist, our fantastic footage editor, found some footage from Butte, Montana. Butte.
What did you call it?
Butte, from like behind.
Butte.
Butte.
All right.
It's double T.
Men have been shot for less.
Yeah. This is the Netherlands. Gun ownership is illegal. You can't.
No, it's Butte.
Yeah, that's right. So according to
Dutch Spanish pronunciation, isn't it?
Spanish, Montana. Yeah. Okay, so Butte.
Butte. Yeah.
Butte. The root
Seriously,
Duke of Butte. Yeah,
guns would be drawn.
Yes, that's right. So that gives us a sense of the place. Yeah.
The sense of the place. Yeah, that's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. So let's see if we can get some of the. This is from the Montana Historical Society, the Bob Vine collection, and the Ehrenreich family collection, and let's see if we can.
We have a little screen here.
So tell us.
We're not just zoning out.
Tell us what we see.
What we see?
Yeah.
Mines, copper mines, but there they are when they were working.
Because this is where your father worked, right?
Yeah, and grandfathers and men in the family generally.
So this is where really your roots.
Yep, guess so. Not a lot of fashion sense there.
Yeah. Because this was your father's life, essentially.
Yeah, not for long. He got out of the mines, which was a rare thing to do. But it's a difficult job, not just physically. I mean, you could see that guy lifting a large rock, climbing up a ladder with a large rock, but also kind of intellectually, all kinds of things have to be calculated in your mind before you dare do them. Dynamite is involved. There are frequent fatal accidents. So it takes, never think of jobs just because they're manual labor as being for people who are stupid or uneducated.
Yeah, you make a similar point in Nickel and Dime.
Oh, I'd make it every chance I can.
Yeah, we'll come to that. And so I think the Brits call it working class. The Americans, being positive, call it blue collar. A blue collar, a proud blue collar community.
Yes, yeah, with quite a labor history, a lot of
Unionism.
violence in the labor history. The Butte miners made their own union, and it's called the Butte Miners Union. They had no support from any national unions, and they had to fight for it. And it was very ethnically mixed in Butte. There were miners from, oh, that's me and my dad.
Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah, look at that.
Great little dress.
Yeah, so fashion sense did at some point emerge in the Ehrenreich.
Huh?
The fashion sense did at some point emerge
Yes,
in the
here's the
Ehrenreich
fashion
family
sense.
tree. What sort of man was he?
Oh, he was a genius. I know that because he told us all the time.
And you didn't question.
Well, if he was a genius, he would know, right? You know, and no, he was extremely smart, as friends of his told me later in his life. But he made this unlikely and difficult transition from being a copper miner to being eventually a white-collar executive in various companies. And that was not altogether healthy for him. He solved the problems and the tensions by drinking, with the inevitable unpleasant consequences of that. But I would say in many ways he was a very good dad to me, because he did, so much encourage questioning, and encouraged me also to see the dignity in everybody's labor. So I owe that to Dad. Oh, my sister isn't here in the audience. She was too tired to come, though she is now in Amsterdam. She might have a dissenting opinion. We have different feelings about our parents.
Yeah. But because, alcoholism creates an unsafe home, doesn't it? Alcoholism creates an unsafe home because the parent becomes unpredictable.
That's true. And both parents were alcoholics.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so where your extraordinary cognitive abilities already put you outside the group, then you were raised to think of yourself as questioning everything, and then the home was unpredictable and possibly unsafe.
You know what you sound like? A therapist. What do you expect me to say? Yeah, I'm really messed up.
Of course you're messed up. We're all messed up. I'm just really interested in the way you are messed up. Yeah.
I am not messed up.
No.
Did I go work in the banking sector? No.
Excellent point. I think many people with a PhD similar to yours have done so and have ended up with lives far less fulfilling than yours. So you escaped.
I escaped.
I
Yeah.
escaped. And so you, cellular immunology, how would you explain it to a layperson in less than a, say, 15-minute lecture?
You have a specific question about cellular immunology?
What do you fundamentally study, and how is it useful for the rest of us?
Oh, well, it's very useful for you, not so much for the person doing the research often, but, there are medical consequences. But how does the body fight disease? And how does the body sometimes turn against itself with autoimmune diseases?
Yeah. That is really interesting, isn't it? This a body turning on itself.
Yeah, now that's very much in my latest book, which I don't see in your pile. What is the latest book called in Dutch?
Old enough to die.
That's right, yeah.
Can you say it?
Oud genoeg om dood te gaan. So old enough, I think the English title is Not Old Enough to Die. Natural, yeah.
It is old enough to die. Not old enough to die.
You win, again, yeah. But
So,
back to the point, the
that's-
body turning on itself.
This is a strange thing about the immune system. It's meant so to be. That's a funny thing to say, because There's no big planner here. There's no boss inside our bodies that makes everything coordinated and work together. All kinds of crazy things can happen. And one of them is that the immune system decides that other parts of the body are worth attacking and eating up and destroying. And that's eventually how we get old and die.
Yeah.
So it's serious stuff.
You took a PhD in this?
That was what, I wandered around to lots of different disciplines and finally got my PhD in this.
Yeah. So a natural thirst for knowledge. No, don't give me this, don't be a therapist. I'm only suggesting. But then you decided to leave the academia. Was this, why?
I had gotten involved in the movements of the 60s. In my country, it was a movement against the war in Vietnam. And I thought that was a lot more interesting and relevant to do, and urgent to do, than what I was doing in a laboratory. And also, I have to admit, I was not real good at laboratory work. I hated it.
What put you off?
Well, you have to be very neat and careful when you're doing laboratory work. You can't be sloppy and impulsive and imaginative. No. So.
Drudge.
Yeah.
We have some footage from the war and the women's rights, as well as the war, anti-war movement. So we're talking, this is 68, 9, 70, around the time your children were born. 69. And there they are. So what are we seeing?
Oh, this looks like Fort Dix, 1969. And it's a march led by women, which is a new kind of thing to do. And women were put into the front of the march, which was kind of as sacrificial animals. And we marched right up to the armed soldiers who did not shoot us. And then they got out the tear gas and shot us with that. And we retreated. But there were a few minutes there when we could talk to the soldiers we had marched up to about why we were doing what we were doing. And did they know why they were going to Vietnam and possibly to die there? It's a myth that there was nothing but antagonism between the armed forces and the protesters. What's going on there? I don't know. Those women look very upset, but I don't know who they are.
No, I think nor do we. You have been extraordinarily lucky, haven't you, to have been born just when women, possibly for the first time at this scale, were allowed to develop their talents the way you have.
Good point. I never thought of it that way. It wasn't that easy or obvious. When I was interviewed for graduate school at this prestigious science facility, the interviewer, who was a dean, asked me, he said, "You're not planning to get married and have children, are you?" And I had to say, "No, not me." That a question that obviously was not being asked of young men.
Yeah. Now, my mother taught at my mother was born in the same year as you are, and she taught here at the Ignatius Gymnasium. And when she married my father, she was just given this farewell present, because, well, if you marry, then you lose your job. So she had to fight the Jesuits.
Wow.
So
in what country was this?
This was right here in Amsterdam. Around the corner. It's late 60s. And so she tells me that it was an extremely tough time, because just before the big feminist wave hit, you were on your own essentially. Was that the case with you too?
Well, I was kind of there at the beginning. I mean, I'm not one of the original foremothers of American feminism, the second wave, but it was very exciting, very intense. I was interested in women's health issues for the reason that I thought health issues cut across lines of class and race, and we could get all kinds of women involved together in these issues, like everything from better treatment in childbirth. Women were still being anesthetized during childbirth in those days. Access to professional schools. We were fighting on so many fronts at that time.
And pregnant or deliveries that were induced because the doctor wanted to go home.
That's what happened. That's what happened to my first baby. She's not here tonight, so I can say that. She'll be here tomorrow. But no, it was 11 p.m. Doctor wanted to get going, and so he shot me up with something that induced very intense, terrifying labor. Yeah.
Was this a more optimistic time?
Was it a more optimistic time? In some ways, because we could see changes happening with the civil rights movement. That was enormously heartening. Not so much the anti-war movement, because it was still a long time before that came to an end. But we really did feel that things were changing rapidly, so rapidly, in fact, that it never occurred to me that I might need something like a retirement fund or a pension, because by that time there would be socialism, and everybody would be taken care of, and it'd be all right. But so, I mean, it was really that kind of optimism.
Yeah. What would you say to that younger self marching in '69?
I'd say, right on, sister. Something like that.
But would you have a piece of advice that your younger self in 1969 could have used that you only got later?
Not really. No, I didn't. I don't think I've fundamentally changed. I'm not one of those 60s activists that looks back with regret at all those years of drugs, sex, and rock and roll, which unfortunately I missed.
Yes, you were busy doing other stuff.
I know, and I have heard people who are now conservatives talk about, well, there was a good part of the 60s, the drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Where was that? I was always knocking on doors, getting petitions signed, having meetings with everybody in an apartment building, then everybody maybe in the block, and trying to build and build and build, so that we could eventually get tens and then hundreds of thousands of people out into the streets.
Yeah. So it was activism first and then journalism.
Well, the journalism came along as a sort of a byproduct.
Yeah.
Because I was working with a little group, a radical group in New York City that was working for better health care for low-income people. And for somehow, the job of writing our newsletter tended to devolve onto me. Not all of it, but I was a sufficiently agile writer that I could do it, and I liked it. But I especially liked it was investigative work, because that was like science.
Yeah. Except now you weren't studying cells, but you were studying big collection of cells.
Exactly. I just said, scale up,
Next thing you'll do planets. Yeah.
Yeah.
We in a format like this, usually at some point there's some music or some entertainment, and so they really tortured you until you gave in and gave them something, because you don't like music.
I don't like music?
Yeah, they told me you don't like music.
That's not true.
We should have a...
That was a lie.
So what do you do for relaxation?
Huh?
What do you do for relaxation?
Relaxation.
What was this again? Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
It's, that is my granddaughters are unfortunately growing up, so they're not quite, they're teenagers now, and they're not as relaxing as they were when they were toddlers. But I read, I watch movies on Netflix. What does anybody do?
Yeah, something like this. For example, one of the films apparently that you really like is Airplane.
Is what?
Airplane, the film Airplane.
Airplanes.
Yeah, now don't let us down. You told the researchers that you liked the film Airplane, so now you're going to play along and watch this clip with Leslie Nielsen from the film Airplane.
Oh, I like the film Airplane.
There we are.
What a brilliant film.
Excellent.
I mean, people talk about seeing movies over and over. I can never understand that, except with Airplane. I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Excellent. Let's have it.
Has anybody here ever seen it?
It's coming.
Well, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, I can't stand it.
What is it?
Oh,
Yes?
oh, it's my stomach. I haven't felt this awful since we saw that Ronald Reagan film.
I'll see if I can find some Dramamine. Sir, excuse me, sir. I'm sorry I have to wake you. You a doctor?
That's right.
We have some passengers that are very sick. Could you come take a look at them?
Yes. Yes, of course. Let me see your tongue. I'll be back in a minute. Captain, how soon can you land?
I can't tell.
You can tell me. I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
No. I mean, we can't land for another 2 hours. Fog has closed down everything this side of the mountains. We've got to get through to Chicago.
Chicago, this is Flight 209er. We're in trouble. We've got to have all traffic below us cleared. And I want a priority approach and landing in Chicago.
Yes. Oh, stewardess, my husband's very sick. Can you do something, please?
Well, the doctor will be with you in just a moment. One thing, do you know what he had for dinner?
Yes, of course. We both had fish. Why?
Oh, it's nothing to be alarmed about. We'll be back to you very quickly.
Every passenger on this plane will have fish for dinner. Will become violently ill in the next half hour.
Just how serious is it, Doctor?
Extremely serious. Starts with a slight fever, dryness of the throat. As the virus penetrates red blood cells, the victim becomes dizzy. Begins to experience an itching, a rash. From there, the poison goes to work on the central nervous system, causing severe muscle spasms, followed by the inevitable drooling. At this point, the entire digestive system collapses, accompanied by uncontrollable flatulence, until finally the poor bastard is reduced to a quivering, wasted piece of jelly.
There it is.
I'll go back to the passengers.
I've got to see it again because there are so many things in that I'd forgotten.
Because the one phrase that comes back in some of the books is the importance of seeing things as they are. And so I was wondering how that sits with humor, because a sense of humor is often that you see things not as they are.
No, I think it's about seeing things as they are. And you have to, well, you should understand the work you've done and writing you've done about banking, that sometimes absurdity is what it's really about. You have to be prepared for absurdity.
Yeah.
When you're reporting, when you're trying to describe what's going on.
Yeah, and then it
And absurdity, then, when you report it, is interpreted as humor. I'm saying I didn't just color in humor to make it funny. That was there. The absurdity was in the, quote, reality that I saw and cannot be removed.
Yeah, so it emerges from the situation.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the book that sort of constituted your breakthrough. Can I Nickel and Dimed? This is in the tradition of Orwell as well as Günter Wallraff, of immersing yourself for a long time in a particular field and trying, as an anthropologist, to live with the natives, so to speak. You did this in low-paid America. What gave you the idea?
I thought somebody should do it. Not me, though. And I said this to a magazine editor. I said, you know, you've got to find someone, some young journalist, to go out there and try to live on the wages they can make when they walk in from the street into an entry-level job. And he said, you, Barbara, do it. And I needed an assignment.
Yeah. And so you were in your mid-50s at that point.
I was old. I'm not
Your
anymore,
words.
but...
Yeah. But it's hard work. I mean...
Yeah, but I was also, and in some ways, still am, extremely fit. And always thought that working out was a useless bourgeois indulgence of mine. However, when I was working in these jobs for nickel and dimed, I was grateful for every weight I had lifted. You know, I had stamina, I had a lot of strength, I could do it.
Yeah, because these jobs could be maybe in a cafeteria, or what was the hardest job of them all?
The house cleaning job.
The house cleaning.
Strangely enough, because I thought, well, what could be hard about that? I've done that all my life. But when you work in a kind of corporate setting, and there's a big, there's a time limit within which you have to do all the work, you're actually running between jobs, and it's very hard work, and it's discouraging. It upset me a lot because we were cleaning the houses of basically rich people, and my co-workers were not getting enough to eat in the course of a day. And I know that because we had like a half an hour or 20 minutes where we'd stop at a convenience store, like in a gas station, be able to run in and get whatever we could for lunch. And a lot of these women ate no more than a little bag of Doritos, the small bag. And I challenged one of them, and I said, that can't be enough for lunch. This job is a real calorie burner. And she said, yeah, well, it's true. By the end of the day, I'm kind of shaky and lightheaded. That's not enough food then. And so that contrast between the obvious wealth of the people whose marble indoor statuary we were dusting and the hunger of people I was working with, infuriated me.
Yeah. And I think what the book did or helped do was to redefine unemployment, where in the old days the idea was if people have a job, it's fine because those jobs surely pay enough. And what you documented was that we should also look at how much people get paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this came out in 2001, when everybody was still doing the third way Clinton, Blair, conga.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was not welcome.
Well, there was a lot of interest, including from Democrats, like Democrats in Congress, in the Senate, not in the White House. No, I think it got plenty of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. What struck me is the humility you would need to put yourself out there for so long and work so hard. I mean, many people would prefer to interview a number of experts and do a piece about poverty.
That's true. Yeah, and I remember actually at one moment, kind of late in the shift, when I was really exhausted and thinking to myself, you know, if I were a good journalist, I wouldn't have to do this shit. You know, I would be doing something else and getting a great, you know, getting a book out of it and everything. But here I am. My hands are dirty. My back is aching. And it's so physical. And I guess that's an argument for this kind of journalism and immersion journalism. And then James might chime in on this, is that if you were to interview people and say, what about your work? Is it tiring? Is it hard? They would say, oh, yeah, it is. That's it, you know, pretty stoical on the whole. But then you have to be a fit person and try it yourself, and you have a sense of how, you know, of what's going on all day for so many people. Now I can't see anybody, like even the woman be next to the cash register in a convenience store, without thinking, how long has she been on her feet? Is there a mat under her feet to make it slightly easier to stand for that long? Are her shoes any good? Does she have children at home that she's worried about now because she doesn't trust their caretakers? So, I mean, all these things. I would say the way I think about it is that we live in a world that's mostly pretty. Certainly Amsterdam is very pretty, you know, and I've only seen the very affluent parts. But underneath it is a world of pain. It's the people who are doing these services, keeping everything going. Now, it's not as intense pain here because you have a welfare state. In the United States, there is no welfare state. You lose that job, you could be sleeping on the street in a couple of nights.
Yeah, without access to healthcare. Yeah,
of course.
Of course, in Europe now, there are millions of so-called illegal immigrants who are effectively in the same place.
Yeah.
What is the biggest risk of immersion journalism?
Well, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, what kind of risk are you thinking of? You could get injured physically like anybody else working.
Perhaps also what anthropologists, I'm an anthropologist by training, would call going native. So an identification with your, what we call informers.
Well, I think my relationship to my coworkers was not that kind of thing. I depended on them in every single job because there was no way to know how to do that job without the experience of the other people who are already working there. Now, this doesn't mean there was a lot of talking that goes on in these workplaces. In some places, talking between workers is an offense, you know, can get you in big trouble. But you do have to chat a little bit to say, where does this, you know, mop go now? Or where would I find a such and such cleaner? And so on. Yeah. So that was the connection between with the other workers.
Yeah, because you also describe in the book how if you were trying to optimize and to be more productive, then people would go, please don't, because you're all making us work harder. I remember that from the blue-collar jobs that I did is that with my sort of aspirational
Yeah,
middle
yeah.
class, I was going to make things more efficient, and people went, "Stop it, you moron!"
I know, and that was a big lesson to me. I guess I had heard of that kind of thing from the people in my own family who were in blue-collar jobs, like my husband, is don't try to show up other people by how hard you work. And I was in a restaurant, and there's this kind of see-through plastic thing where different slices of pie and cake, they're kind of ancient plastic pies and cakes, but to show you what there is on offer. And I thought they should be dusted, periodically, the pies, especially the cream pies. They look terrible with a coating of dust. And I was doing this, and a fellow worker came up to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I told her, and she said, "Don't do that, or we'll all be expected to do that." Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I needed to know.
And so, in biographical terms, it was full circle. So you're from a proud blue-collar background, then you rise up, a PhD, and you become a journalist, and then you go back to the world of blue collars. But then, as you described in the book, at some point, for you, it's just another item on your CV. You could get out. And then what you describe as the professional managerial class, the 20% running the country, us, we go like, "You were where? Doing what? That's interesting."
No, that's the strangest response, and I still get it. I've gotten it recently, a couple months ago, is, "You were so brave to do that. To go out of your life and work in these jobs." Say, if I was brave to do it for a few months, what about the heroism of the people who are doing it every day? Have you ever thought about them? And yeah, that's irritating.
Yeah. The poor see the rich, but the rich don't see the poor. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, the poor can see everything about the rich, especially if we keep getting to clean their houses. And amazing how much you can find out when you clean people's houses, more than you want to know.
Example, right here. Give us an example.
Oh,
No names, but
it's
just
gross.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the shit stains on people's toilet seats. I mean, to me, that says something. If you haven't wiped it up yourself, if you haven't even thought to clean that. You can also, people will leave all kinds of things out. They would leave like a bowl full of money, cash, out, which was not tempting to me, but I could understand if my coworkers were tempted by it.
Yeah. And
But there's no equivalent way that the rich know anything about the lives of the poor.
And the paradox or the contradiction is perhaps that a book like this, even though it's written about the poor, is more likely to be read by the 20% professional managerial class than for the people you wrote it about.
Well, but I'm very heartened by the number of letters I've gotten from working class people, who have read it and are very excited to see their own lives or some aspect of them reflected back to them. So I feel real good about that.
Yeah, it's a very democratic medium, of course. I mean, but you've decided also to expand. It's now where I'm heading up to my favorite bit, and you've done a video, also explaining. Yes, you knew this was coming, and so I think it needs very little introduction. I think we can just slide into it. Here it comes.
Oh, this. Oh, my God. I take no responsibility for this.
You made it. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Louis, what are you doing here? Checking up on me?
No, we're just stopping by on the way back to the city.
right, come on in.
I will.
Can I get you a drink?
Coffee.
I'll have a Coke, please.
Coke it is.
So, do you eat here a lot?
I've never been here before, Jack.
How do you two know each other?
She's on assignment for the magazine.
Who is she?
That's Barbara Ehrenreich, well-known essayist, probably one of the best journalists in the country. It's 1998, Jack, a moment of unparalleled prosperity in America. What the chairman of the Federal Reserve called irrational exuberance. The Clinton administration's welfare reforms have herded millions of Americans into the low-wage workforce. But how does one prosper or even survive if one makes $6 or $7 an hour? And Barbara's trying to find out how the trick is done. So for the last year, she's been working at low-wage jobs, living in cheap rooms, traveling around the country, working as a domestic maid, as a Walmart associate, as a waitress.
Coffee? Coke?
Thanks a lot.
Barbara, this is Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Nice to meet you.
Jack
Likewise.
just graduated from Yale.
Oh.
Goldman's made him an offer, but he doesn't know whether he wants to be in the investment banking business. So I'm taking him on the rounds, introducing him to people in other professions.
Well, I hope you're not thinking of waitressing.
Why? Has it been that tough?
But one of the very humbling things for me has been to learn really that there are no unskilled jobs. All jobs take skill and intelligence and experience. They're hard. From the first day I started working here, I've been running. And first I was running around after Gail, she's another waitress here.
Okay, Barb, can you take her pancakes to 63?
I should be explaining how to do things and also telling me about her troubles. She's been living in a van.
Well, so I ended up living in my truck out here in the parking lot from like March to July.
She works full-time, but she can't afford an apartment or anything regular like that. But anyway, it's so much, it's overwhelming.
We're talking about the height of the last boom, right?
Yes.
Height of the boom, all boats rising, building a better world,
Well, exactly, in a way.
but not entirely.
Full employment, pretty much,
Yes.
at the time. Wages should be technically rising, right?
We created a lot of jobs in this country in the 90s, but they're not jobs that a person can live on. And that's what, completely undermines the myth of this great American job-producing economy. If you can't live on it, it doesn't count, it seems to me. It's not that people are even living at a sustainable level of suffering in many cases. They are living in what I would call a state of emergency. Not enough to eat in many cases, inadequate housing or no home, inadequate child care that really has them nervous all day about how their children are.
I'm just having a tough time because you don't see this. You don't see things being as bad as you describe them.
You don't see any of this. You don't see it, Jack, because you hang out at Goldman Sachs or wherever it is you want to go to work.
But they have philanthropy, public service. A lot of those people devote millions and millions and millions of dollars to building houses in poor communities.
Philanthropy. Don't tell me about philanthropy, Jack. The real philanthropists in our society are the people who work for less than they can actually live on, because they are giving of their time and their energy and their talents all the time so that people like you can be dressed well and fed cheaply and so on. They're giving to you. No, I had nothing to do with this. I was just
It's your double.
as Trump would say, a crisis actor. Brought in to act. Huh? Fake news, yeah.
Still, I think it delivers the points really well. So it works for its purposes. You also went one step further into activism with safe parking. Perhaps you could explain a little bit safe parking.
Oh, well, I should say that I started a project about 6 years ago to help nurture young journalists, journalists of color, whoever is, struggling to get a foothold in writing or photojournalism. And we raise money and we help them with that, and we help them get their stuff edited and shaped and then published in large media outlets. Now, one of the things we did is we financed as a film, a documentary called Safe Parking, that's what it's called, about an amazing welfare state sort of expansion in Santa Barbara, California, which you may know is a very wealthy region. So it has no place for working people to live. And finally, the city made this amazing gesture. They said that a certain parking lot would be patrolled at night so that women could safely sleep in their cars overnight in this lot. See, the problem, if you're living in your car, is the fear that you could be attacked, especially a woman. And in the summertime, you can't keep all the windows rolled up, and it's just really rough. So this was a brilliant idea to help low-wage workers.
Yeah.
It's something, I'm not complaining, but it just shows how far behind we are in helping people. We can't do anything about the fact that you're homeless, but maybe we can prevent you from being raped at night.
Yeah, that's a very low bar. Let's have a look.
I've been a carpenter for 40 years. I've been on unemployment for the last 6 months. I've had a problem with my neck and my hand. I just got my last check last night. I knew we were going to be homeless. I knew it was going to happen. We lost our apartment. So I bought that van that we sleep in, took the seats out, and that's what we got the Safe Park program, and then that's what we've been doing.
There's a Santa Barbara ordinance saying that it's illegal to sleep in your vehicle overnight. We have 20 lots throughout the Santa Barbara area over here. So when you pull in, there's like a parking lot here and here. It's this back one. You can start entering anytime after 8 p.m. and then you have to be out by 7 a.m. every morning.
So I'm going to pick you up where? Behind the cafeteria or next to the tennis courts? You get off at 8, I get off at 8, so I'll be there around 8:15. I left because my ex and my son got into a physical fight. I left the house with all my kids. I went to a hotel for a while, friend's house for a while, then another friend's house for another 3 months, and then another friend's house for another 3 months. And then I ended up back to the hotel rooms and then into the parking program.
Registration, insurance. We also have another lot that we just signed. It's brand new, it's in a church. There's only 5 spaces there and they prioritize families.
We belong to the YMCA. We swim, we take our showers here every day. We kind of keep our routine fairly normal. But I miss the kitchen, I miss cooking.
I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, drop off my kids at school, then I go to work from 8 to 5, go pick up my kids, then I go to my other job at night. It's just trying to find a place. It's been difficult. I make the money, I just don't have good credit. So there's been times that nobody's sleeping in the car while I'm at my night job, that the cops come and knock on the window. And they've asked them, what are they doing there? And they tell them, well, we're waiting for mom to get off in 15 minutes. You know, it's going to be 2 more hours.
Hug me. Kiss me. Kiss me.
She don't really remember what her mom looks like, but that's all going to change real soon. Her mom's going to be getting out of prison real soon. Leilani writes her letters, and her mom writes her back. I don't know. I don't. Just as long as you're not in the spirit. I know you called him before. Her mom has an addiction. It's a disease.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mama. What are you doing?
Oh, just watching a movie and stuff.
Oh, she's done real well. You said your spelling is just. Oh, you'd be proud of her too.
Bye.
Our living situation isn't the best at the moment. But she's okay. She's a trooper.
Yeah, welcome to America.
Child mortality worse than in many developing countries. Life expectancy lower than in Greece.
I don't know what is, because I don't know the Greek life expectancy.
It's 81. It's even in the worst economic crisis they hit in 50 years, Greeks still live longer than Americans.
Oh, well, especially working class and poor Americans. The gap in life expectancy between them and the middle class has been growing and growing, and of course, them and the rich.
And averages even that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At some point in one of your books, you write, a lot of what we experience as strength comes from knowing what to do with weakness.
I said that?
I'm quoting you back.
Oh, in what book?
I think it's in Smile or Die. But I can look this up for you, but it's really there. I'm not making this up.
That's pretty good, yeah. I don't disagree with it. I was just, yeah.
Because it seems to sum up so much of your work as well as your life, where you found strength in seeing weakness for what it is, seeing things as they are.
Okay, I'll accept that, yeah.
So now tell me about defensive pessimism.
Well,
What is it?
You know, I'm against, what does that say? Oh, the back.
Oh, that's nothing.
Okay. No, I'm against positive thinking as an approach to the world because you're going to fool yourself if you're constantly thinking everything is going to go your way and everything is going to turn out all right. Now, you could also be fooling yourself by saying, I'm going to fail at everything because I'm a miserable person, and that's not true. You know, let's just look at what's happening, look at the facts, and then see what we can do to change things. Let's not start by saying the world will be exactly what I want, or the world will be the opposite of what I want. The world is not that interested in what you want.
Yeah. It's
Please don't surprise me with something I can't remember saying.
How to live, to try to get outside of ourselves and see things as they are, or see them as uncolored as possible by our own feelings and fantasies, to understand that the world is full of both danger and opportunity, the chance of great happiness as well as the certainty of death.
Yep. Yep, and my most recent book is about that certainty of death and how we can live happily even knowing that. Yeah.
I've got one final question, but I'll put it to you after we've turned this to the floor. There's one person with a microphone. Yeah. There's also two snipers in the corners. And if you take more than 3 sentences, that sniper will take you out. And it's always a bit messy with the first 2-3 people, but audiences tend to get it really quickly. So thank you very much for Barbara for being here. My question is about X and then the question. Excellent. So. Come on, people. We're in Amsterdam.
You won't be shot for asking a question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here. What is the difference between investigative journalism and anthropological fieldwork? Is there a boundary? How would you view that?
The difference between investigative journalism, immersive style, and anthropological fieldwork.
Oh, I don't know for sure. I mean, I can impersonate an anthropologist. I've been called a sociologist. I've been called worse. And a historian. So I have no interest in what those professional boundaries are. I do what I need to do, you know, to get answers to questions.
Perhaps the nature of your questions is different whether you come from academia and you build on academic field body of knowledge, or whether you're in journalism. So your audience may be different and your questions.
Yeah, I think that the problem with the academic approach is that you may be confined to the boundaries of your discipline. So you can't ask certain questions because that would lead away from your discipline.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Yeah. Journalism gives you incredible freedom.
Yeah.
To be as
But it also means you have to know everything.
Yeah. And so you have to wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very good at it. One more question. Yeah, over there. Yeah, over there in the corner.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could say anything about what you will next work on.
Excellent. What's your next project?
Do I have to have one? No, I'm in a phase, I was talking to Joris about this before, being in a phase where you don't have a project. I'm curious about a lot of things. I spend a lot of time Googling and reading books. I don't know what's going to come of it. But I also have work I have to do for the Economic Hardship Reporting Project, the project I mentioned to you. I do a lot of editing. I do a lot of discussing with our journalists about what they're going to produce and the best way to go about it. And I love doing that.
Is there still a big question you'd like to crack?
Sure.
For example?
Well, in the biggest sense, what's going on here? You know, what is happening? Here we are on this planet, zooming through space, and we are part of a little biological scum on the outside of this planet, a film, really, of life. And you do have to ask, what's it all about? What's the plan here? Well, there's probably no plan, but still we have to ask. Is that a good answer or a crazy answer?
It reminds me of the autoimmune system. It almost seems like humanity is now attacking itself.
Yes. Yeah. No, we're in a dire situation here on this planet. I think that the extinction of our species, along with so many others, is a very real possibility. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm a pessimist or something, but because scientists are saying it. You know, just a couple weeks ago, when nobody noticed because of the midterm elections in the United States, the United Nations came out with a prediction that, what was it, in 2021? 2030, we start running out of habitat, or the thing just tilts irreversibly toward ruin. But, you know, how many times do you have a conversation about the end of the world with people you know? How many times do you bring it up? Well, you have.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we don't talk about it. In fact, it would be rather tasteless to bring it up in most conversations. Hey, what do you think about the end of the world, huh? You know, there's no way. So we are kind of stuck. And I don't know how, you know, it's our job as journalists to figure out a way that that discussion can happen.
Yeah, beyond the circle.
Yes,
That is already
absolutely.
spending its Friday evening at the Bali. Yeah, one more question.
Could you please talk a little bit about what drew you to study cellular immunology and how that relates to the other work that you've done, for example, the economic hardship project?
Whether there's a causal relation or the relation between your work on cellular immunology and later now on the economic hardship. Is there a connection, or are these just two different brands?
I don't see the connection there. I wish I could say yes, but no. I find them totally fascinating. I still, as a kind of hobby, try to read the latest in cellular immunology. But I know it is not really connected to the other things I do. It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel disapproval radiating from the questioner.
It's this, there's an expression for a certain type of person in the Netherlands, and it's called with someone without an off switch. Mm. So the brain just goes dung, 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 and it's this endless thirst for knowledge. 40 years after taking your PhD, you keep up with cellular immunology as a hobby.
Yeah. Well, don't you feel that? I mean, you're a journalist, and you talk about reading many books on many subjects.
No, I can't stop either. So I'm looking at you and thinking, you can grow old with this. It's doable.
Yeah. Right.
But what I find really inspiring is the way you seem to find energy in all the misery.
Ooh, that sounds awful, like a vampire. No, I don't find energy in the misery. I find energy in the people I work with, and including a lot of the young writers and photojournalists that we have been able to help, and who are so eager and so full of energy, and I can sort of suck off some of their energy.
Good for you. More questions? Yeah, the lady over there.
Hi, I have a question. Why aren't there unions anymore that take care of these people that don't earn enough? Because if you demand enough money for your labor, you shouldn't starve or have no house. There used to be unions to do that, right?
What happened to the unions?
The unions are not a force, unfortunately, tragically, in the United States at all right now. I have a good friend here who's come from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who was a union organizer and is now a community organizer because he was too energetic with his community organizer, and the AFL-CIO, our big confederation of unions, decided they didn't want people like him. So I'm not going to introduce him after that little introduction. But no, a lot of the blame goes to the leadership of the unions, but a lot of the blame just comes from the fact that companies can fire anyone who shows the slightest bit of interest in joining a union. And they do that all the time. So it's too terrifying. Can't do it under these circumstances.
Let's see. Maybe a few questions from here, from the gentleman here.
Ma'am, don't these people, these poor people, have a power as by voting, for example, for more people from the left wing? The poor people.
Voting?
Vote, yes.
So why do they keep voting for politicians that keep the current system in place?
I knew I would never escape from that question. But I think the simple answer is that the working class in America was betrayed by the Democrats. Absolutely betrayed. And all the factory closings and outsourcings of the 80s and 90s resulted in no aid for working people.
Ross Perot in 1988, I think, or 1992, said that if you shift jobs out of the country, we will get in trouble. But still nothing happened with that. I mean, what is happening with the poor people had been was
predicted.
Foreseen, was predicted, yes.
What's happening with poor people as this goes on?
So there were warnings all through the 70s, 80s, 90s, this was going to happen. And so why weren't these warnings heeded?
By the poor people?
By those in power?
Oh, no, those in power generally have no concern for the people at the bottom. And if they don't vote, that's fine. The people at the bottom tend not to vote as much because they don't see the point. What will it do for them? And then, you got what looked like, to some people, a great alternative, Trump. Strong guy, big guy, rich guy. He would become their savior. He would become their man. For white men, for white people anyway.
Do you know whether your informants for nickel and dimed voted for Trump?
I doubt they voted, because they weren't very interested in anything about politics when I was with them.
Right.
I tried.
Yeah, over there.
Hello, I just returned permanently to the Netherlands from 52 years in the United States. I started out as a domestic worker in St. Louis. I relate very much to what you were talking about, working for affluent people. In all those 52 years, I always kept talking to my friends about how I saw the country predictably move to the right, and that tomorrow we'd be more to the right than we were today, and we are more to the right than we were yesterday. And I have seen this for 52 years, regardless of who was in the White House. And I've seen an increase in mean-spiritedness and almost a sadistic kind of element in the culture.
And so your question...
Where do you look for hope?
Excellent question.
Well, there are lots of reasons for hope right now. I mean, it turns out that Trump, for everything bad we can say about him, is, for example, the best feminist organizer I have ever seen. That he could get out 1 million women to Washington, D.C. To protest against him. That there is something in America called the resistance, which includes all kinds of people. People who have never been politically active before. You can see a lot of, churnings toward real change going on all over the country.
Yeah. So one force may bring out a counterforce. That's our source for hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dialectics. The gentleman over there.
Thank you very much for your lecture, and I want to draw on your years of experience as an activist and ask what kind of advice that you would give to community organizers, activists, especially in light of Trump and the rising right wing all over the world, not just in the U.S. What advice would you give to activists so that they can avoid reinventing the wheel?
What advice would you give to activists?
Advice? Keep it up. Keep it up. Yeah, I mean, we don't always know, if what we do is going to make sense, is going to have any lasting impact, but we have to keep it up. And others will come along after us, our own children, or the students or people we've influenced, and they'll decide if it was worthwhile what we did.
But how do we avoid reinventing the wheel?
How do you avoid reinventing the wheel? And
study history. You know, find out how wheels used to be made. And try not to do it the same way.
Okay, we can take one final question. The closest, whoever is closest to you. All right, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
You probably will know of the book of 2004, Jeremy Rifkin. And the title was The European Dream. And it was a kind of the opposite, the positive opposite of the American dream. Now, that was in 2004. We went through the big bummer. And do you think that there's still hope for America in Europe?
So could Europe be a source of inspiration for America? Is that correct?
Yep.
I think it has been at times for parts of the American left who were very impressed by Euro-socialism in the 80s. I would say there's a lot of impact from what happens in Europe. And now we're watching you very nervously. You know, if Europe goes populist, and that's the wrong word, fascist is the right word, then I feel that I'm going to feel pretty bad. So bear that in mind. Barbara will be hurt. But yeah, no, I think we're very open to learning from Europe. And I think that you can show the way to us. Show and how you battle with fascism. And I use that word because that's now who we're up against. Steve Bannon, who was here a few weeks ago, that's a word for people like that. They're fascists. And what is going on replays in some way the Second World War, where our fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers in some cases had to fight Nazis. We're back to that, and we're looking at you. We're looking to see what you do. So, heavy responsibility.
That's right. Now, I was going to ask you one more question, and you don't have to answer right away. I know you're going to be supremely annoyed, but I don't care, because it's the last question. I ask this to everyone I interview on stage, and it is, what animal are you?
What animal? I'm not one of those people who has like a spirit animal.
A teddy bear?
No. No,
What,
I think
are you a predator, or are you
a what?
Are you a predator, or are you a prey animal?
Well, like most humans, I'm trying to make the transition away from being prey, but without becoming too much of a predator that in the process I destroy the other animals on Earth.
Because this is why I like the question, what animal are you? Because it basically means, do you kill other animals, or do other animals kill you?
I try to kill them and eat them.
Yeah, that's right. I think.
But I know that's bad. And I know everybody else.
No, but as an animal, so and are you furry, or do you have scales, or do you fly? Because I'm trying to work out. So last week I interviewed Joe Secco, the famous cartoonist. We ended up on a crow. He's a crow. He likes to fly, not stay too long. He does kill every now and then, but usually vermin. I think you work very, very hard. Bird?
Okay, bird. Let me take bird. If it's still available.
It is, yeah. So we have the whole arc. There are not too many of you.
You know, actually,
so.
I have written an essay for the Erasmus Prize people. They insisted I do a lot of work if I was to come here. One of the things was to write, yeah, I'm looking at you, Shanti Van Dam. A lot of work, and that I write an essay on some subject. So thinking about Erasmus and scratching my head and everything for a while, I decided this was the perfect time to attack humanism. Right? Isn't Erasmus associated with humanism?
Yeah.
So if I'm getting the Erasmus Prize, I'm in a good position to attack humanism. So I have an essay attacking humans. How do you get hold of that essay? That's not a very good delivery system. No, this is not a good marketing plan. But anyway, it exists, and there will have to be a way to find it. But what it takes on about humans, and our big problem, is narcissism. We think we're better than all the other life forms on Earth. We think they should die in large batches or in small, so that our lives will be smoother and easier. And because some of them are delicious. We know that. So I think we have to deal with this.
I think you're trying to avoid my question, but I have a suggestion. So, since there are very few of you, and since, to my humble mind, you embody everything that's great about America, and you are a bird, then perhaps you are an eagle.
Well, or a vulture. Very similar. Very similar to eagles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Predatory birds.
Vulture?
Well, look, we're predators. We don't notice it because we don't usually have to kill the meat ourselves. It's been killed for us and wrapped in plastic. So we are, in a sense, scavengers, scavenging off the killing done by workers in the meat packing plants.
What a fantastic final point to make. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara Ehrenreich.